All right, get ready, because we're diving deep into Adlerian psychology today.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be good.
We've got some excerpts from The Courage to be Disliked you all sent in,
Yes.
and
Spoilers.
it's packed with some really interesting, thought-provoking ideas.
It's a unique approach, this Adlerian psychology.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people listening are probably familiar with Freud and Jung.
Right.
But Adler, even though he's around the same time as those guys, really went a different direction with things.
He did.
And even if you haven't heard of Adler directly, you've probably come across some of his ideas indirectly.
Yeah.
I mean, he influenced really popular books, like How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Right. Huge bestseller.
Or even The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So his thinking is out there.
It is. And one of the things that makes The Courage to be Disliked so cool is it's not just like a straight up textbook.
Right.
It's written as a dialogue.
That's right.
So you've got a young person who's kind of like skeptical of these new ideas, and then you've got this philosopher explaining them.
Yeah.
And so as we go through this, it'll be like we're part of their conversation.
Exactly. And one of the big things that jumps out right away about Adlerian psychology is that it's not all about digging into your past, like some other approaches. Instead, it's really focused on understanding your current goals.
Okay, so not what happened to you as a child.
Right.
More like, what are you aiming for now?
Yeah, like what are you striving for right now?
Okay.
And how are those goals shaping your feelings and your behaviors?
So even if you're not aware of it, like what is it that you're aiming for that's making you unhappy? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and the book's actually pretty upfront about this.
Mm-hmm.
It says that we choose our unhappiness to a certain extent.
Oh, that's a tough one to swallow.
I know, right?
Well,
Like, it's like, wait, am I choosing to be miserable? But think about it this way. If we're choosing it, even unconsciously, it means we have the power to choose something different.
right. That's empowering.
Exactly. And that's where the real power lies in this idea.
Okay, but what about stuff that happens to us?
Yeah.
Like, what about a stressful job or financial problems? I mean, that can make anyone unhappy, right?
Avoid it.
And it's not really a choice.
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But Adlerians would say, hold on a second. Even those external problems, like the job, the money, they're actually tied back to how we interact with others.
Okay, interesting.
Think about it. That stressful job. Maybe you're always trying to please your boss or competing with your coworkers. Or maybe you're struggling financially, and it's because you're scared to ask for a raise. Or you're overspending trying to impress people you don't even like. It all comes back to relationships, even when it seems like it doesn't.
So it's not the money, it's the people. It's not the job, it's the people.
That's right.
And the book talks a lot about feelings of inferiority.
Yes.
Which I think we all experience, right? I mean, who hasn't felt less than at some point?
Absolutely. Everyone experiences those feelings. It's actually just part of being human.
Yeah.
But what Adler said was these feelings are usually based on comparisons.
Right. Comparing yourself to others.
Yeah, subjective comparisons that we make in our heads.
Right.
So we're constantly measuring ourselves against other people, which, just creates this constant feeling of competition, like we're never good enough.
Never enough, yeah.
So instead of trying to be better than everyone else, what if we focused on just becoming the best versions of ourselves?
So it's not the feeling of inferiority itself that's the problem. It's what we do with it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's how it shapes our behavior. And I love how the book uses that really vivid image of a teenager obsessed with their reflection.
Right.
Spending hours in front of the mirror.
Yes.
Convinced that everyone is judging them.
Yeah.
And I think we all do that to some extent.
We do.
Are we really being scrutinized that much?
Like?
Or is it that we're projecting our own insecurities?
It's like we're walking around with these spotlights on us all the time.
Yeah.
And we think everyone's watching. But in reality, everyone else is too busy worrying about their own spotlight.
That's so true.
And this whole idea ties into another key idea from Adler, that even braggarts, those people who just have to show off all the time.
Right.
They're often masking their own insecurities.
They're overcompensating. Like, trying to convince everyone else how great they are because deep down, they're not so sure themselves.
They haven't fully convinced themselves.
But if we're constantly seeking validation from others, how do we break free from that? Because it seems like we're wired to care what people think.
Oh, we are, to a certain extent, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the book offers a solution, although it might seem kind of counterintuitive at first.
Yeah.
The separation of tasks.
Okay. Now, before you go on, when I hear separation of tasks, I think isolation.
Right.
I think like not caring about other people?
Yeah, that's not what it means.
So tell me more.
So it's about recognizing which problems are actually yours to solve.
Okay.
And which ones belong to other people. And that frees you from taking on burdens that aren't yours to carry, allowing you to really focus on what you can control. You can't control other people, how they feel, what they think, what they do.
Right.
But you can control how you respond to them.
You can choose.
You can choose. And the book gives a really good example to illustrate this. It's about a young woman who's terrified of blushing.
Okay.
And she's spending all her time trying to, prevent it from happening because she's worried about what people will think,
Sure.
And the philosopher in the book says, look, you're using this fear to avoid rejection.
Oh, okay.
So the real task isn't to stop blushing. It's to build up your self-confidence so you can actually engage with others without being paralyzed by this fear.
So it's not about controlling the physical reaction. It's about
The mindset.
changing the mindset.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow. That's really interesting. And that leads us to one of the, I would say, most radical and maybe liberating ideas in the book. Freedom is being disliked. That's a pretty bold statement.
It's bold. It's tough to wrap your head around it at first, especially these days. We're bombarded with messages about fitting in, being liked, getting those likes.
Right.
But think about it. Most of us, we crave approval.
Right.
So we end up trying to please everyone else.
Yeah.
Even if it means sacrificing what we want and what we need.
Yeah. And then you end up feeling trapped and unfulfilled.
Exactly. We cling to this need for approval.
Yeah.
And we become prisoners of everyone else's opinions. But here's the thing. You are not responsible for making everyone like you.
Oh, that's good.
It's so liberating.
Yeah, it is.
And when you let go of that need, when you just accept that not everyone will like you no matter what you do, you gain the freedom to be yourself.
It's like you can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, and there will still be someone who hates peaches. Exactly.
So it's just the way it is.
Yeah. And the book uses this great analogy. It talks about Alexander the Great.
Okay.
Cutting the Gordian knot. That knot was so complicated, nobody could untie it.
Right.
So he took his sword and just sliced right through it.
Just like that.
And sometimes we need to be a little bit like Alexander, Sometimes you got to take a bold approach, a little unconventional.
Just cut through it.
Yeah, to break free from those expectations and relationships that are holding us back. We can't spend our whole lives trying to untie every little knot.
Right.
Sometimes you got to make a clean break.
Wow. I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And it takes courage, right, to do that?
It does.
To step outside those comfortable but ultimately limiting patterns. But this all starts to sound a little individualistic,
Right.
Screw everyone else, I'm going to do my own thing. But that's not really the whole picture, is it?
It's not the whole picture at all. Because Adlerian psychology, while it does emphasize personal responsibility,
it's also deeply connected to the idea that we belong to something bigger than ourselves.
Okay.
And the book talks about this through the concept of community feeling.
Community feeling, what's that? Because I'm hearing that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, we're all holding hands, singing Kumbaya.
Right. It's not that.
Right.
It's not about being best friends with everyone.
Right.
Or even agreeing with everyone.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that inherent interconnectedness.
Oh, okay.
That we are all part of something bigger.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, even if you're standing alone in a crowded room,
right,
you're still part of this vast web of human experiences.
Exactly. The book even points out that something as simple as someone buying a loaf of bread is part of this massive network of human effort. The farmer who grew the wheat, the baker who made the bread, the cashier at the store, it goes on and on.
It's like we're all contributing in our own way, even when we don't realize it.
That's right. And that brings us to one of the most powerful, inspiring ideas in the book, which is happiness is the feeling of contribution.
Wow. So it's not about getting stuff. It's not about achieving something.
It's not about that external validation. It's an inner sense of fulfillment.
Okay.
That comes from knowing that you are making a difference.
And that makes me think about work,
Yes.
It's not just about earning a paycheck. It's about finding an opportunity to contribute your skills, your talents to something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. And when you shift your perspective that way, work becomes less about what am I getting?
Yeah.
And more about what am I giving?
That's so powerful.
Yeah. So as we move on to the next part of our deep dive here, I want you to think about what stands out to you so far from these Adlerian principles.
Yeah, what resonates? What challenges your current thinking? What are you curious about?
This is where the rubber meets the road, right?
Yeah.
How do we actually put these ideas into practice?
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to explore next.
One of the things that really stuck with me from the first part of our deep dive was that idea that we actually choose our unhappiness.
Yeah.
It's so easy to blame our past,
Right.
to blame other people for our misery.
Of course.
But this whole idea of Adlerian psychology,
Yeah.
it's really about taking ownership
It is, yeah.
of our emotions.
It really is a game changer when you start to see things from that perspective, Instead of saying, well, I'm this way because of X, it's like, no, I'm choosing to be this way.
Right.
And I have the power to choose differently.
So we have a choice.
We do.
But it takes courage.
It takes courage, a lot of courage sometimes. The book talks about the courage to be disliked,
Right.
the courage to step outside your comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
the courage to challenge those beliefs that might be holding you back.
But where do we even begin?
Right.
Because it can feel overwhelming, to think about changing those deep-seated patterns.
Well, the book really emphasizes understanding your lifestyle.
Right. Not lifestyle.
And it's not just like your hobbies or your daily routine.
No.
It's your whole approach to life.
Oh, okay.
It's your beliefs, your values, those unconscious goals we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It's like a blueprint,
Okay.
for how you interact with the world.
So it's about recognizing the patterns
The pattern.
in our thinking, in our behavior,
Uh-huh.
the choices we make.
Even the ones we don't realize we're making.
Right.
That are contributing to how we feel right now.
What if it's all happening unconsciously?
Yeah.
How are we even supposed to know what those patterns are?
That's the tricky part.
Yeah.
That's where it gets really interesting. The book uses this term, life lie.
Life lie.
Yeah, it's like the stories we tell ourselves to justify our current situation,
Okay.
even if they're not really true.
So, I can't be happy because of my past.
Exactly.
Or I'll never be successful because I don't have the right connections.
Yep, things like that.
Oh, I've definitely told myself a few of those.
I think we all have.
It's so easy to get stuck in those narratives.
It is.
But you're saying those life lies are actually preventing us from being happy?
They're holding us back.
Yeah.
But once you start to see those life lies, you can start to challenge them.
Okay.
Question whether they're really true.
Yeah.
And then you can start to write a new story.
A new story, new narrative.
A new narrative for yourself, yeah.
I like that.
And it's not just about thinking differently. It's about taking action.
Okay, yeah, because you can read all the self-help books you want,
Right.
but if you don't actually change anything,
Nothing changes.
nothing changes.
So how do we take these Adlerian principles and actually put them into practice? Well, the book introduces this concept of encouragement.
Okay, now encouragement, to me, that sounds like compliments. Like,
Well-
good job.
You're doing great.
How is that gonna create lasting change?
It's actually a lot deeper than just giving compliments.
Okay.
Encouragement, in the Adlerian sense, is about acknowledging someone's effort,
Oh.
expressing gratitude,
Okay.
helping them to see their own value, their own potential.
So it's not about inflating their ego.
No, it's not about empty praise.
It's about fostering a sense of intrinsic motivation.
Exactly.
So instead of saying, you're so smart, which could actually make someone afraid to fail,
Right.
it's more like, hey, I appreciate all the effort you put into that project.
That's a good example, yeah.
Thank you for being so helpful.
It's about focusing on the process,
Yeah.
the effort,
Yeah.
the contribution, rather than just the outcome.
Not the external validation.
Yeah, exactly.
And that applies to how we treat ourselves too, right?
It does. If we're constantly putting ourselves down,
Yeah.
focusing on our flaws,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
going to be hard to make any positive changes.
But life isn't always easy.
No, it's not.
How do we deal with those difficult people? The ones that seem determined to make us unhappy.
Oh, the energy vampires.
The energy vampire.
The book actually talks about this,
Okay.
the dynamics of power struggles.
Oh, I see those everywhere.
We all get caught up in them.
Whether it's with our partners or coworkers,
Yeah.
our
Thanks.
family.
All the time.
It's like this constant need to prove our point, to be right.
To get the upper hand,
Yeah.
even if it's about something totally ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
But here's what Adler suggests. Step down from the power struggle.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I know, right? It might sound like giving up
Yeah.
or letting the other person win.
But it's not about that, is it?
It's not about that. It's about choosing a different battleground.
Okay.
It's about realizing that you can't control what other people do.
Right.
You can only control your response.
Your reaction.
The book uses this image of someone hurling insults at you,
Oh, yeah.
and you have a choice. You can react with anger, escalate the situation,
Yeah.
or you can choose not to take the bait.
Just let it roll off.
You can recognize that their behavior is their task,
Their problem.
their problem to deal with, not yours.
It's like that saying, you can't stop birds from flying over your head,
Right.
but you can prevent them from building a nest in your hair.
I love that.
It's a good one.
It is.
And this isn't about condoning bad behavior,
No,
letting people walk all over you.
It's not about that.
It's about setting boundaries,
Yes.
protecting your own well-being.
Exactly.
So it's about recognizing when you're being drawn into a game that you can't win
Right.
and choosing not to play.
Exactly.
But how do we do that? How do we shift from that reactive,
Yeah.
defensive mode?
To something that's more constructive.
Yeah.
Well, the book emphasizes the importance of using language effectively.
Okay, so choosing our words carefully.
Yeah. Communicating your needs clearly,
Mm-hmm.
respectfully, without blaming.
Even when you're upset.
Especially when you're upset. It takes practice.
Guys.
You know, we've got these ingrained patterns.
Yeah.
It's not like you flip a switch and suddenly you're a Zen master.
Right, exactly.
But it's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
And it's not a solo journey.
That's so important to remember.
It is.
We're not meant to figure everything out on our own.
And remember, the foundation of Adlerian psychology is that we are interconnected.
Right.
So it's about reaching out for support, whether it's friends, family, a therapist, or even a community of like-minded folks.
Finding your people.
Finding your people.
Yeah.
And it's about building those healthy, supportive relationships where you can actually talk about your struggles, encourage each other,
Yeah.
and feel that sense of belonging.
But it's not just about leaning on others. It's also about recognizing that connection requires a balance
Balance, yeah.
between independence and interdependence.
That's right.
So respecting each other's tasks,
Yes.
offering help without interfering, letting people grow at their own pace.
Precisely.
And that balance is so important in work too, right?
Yes.
The book talks about how true fulfillment comes not just from earning a living, but from feeling like you're contributing to something bigger.
Finding meaning and purpose in your work.
Whether it's paid work or volunteer work,
Right.
or even just taking care of your family.
Exactly. It's about seeing work not as a chore,
Yeah,
but as an opportunity.
to use your skills.
Yeah, your talents to make a positive impact.
And it all comes back to that community feeling.
It does.
Right.
It does.
Recognizing that we're all part of something larger.
That our actions matter.
Yeah.
That we all have something to contribute.
So instead of focusing on what you lack or what you're not getting,
Yeah, shift your attention to what you can give.
how you can be of service.
How can you make a difference?
Even in small ways.
Well, even in small ways, that's right.
And that makes me think of something else from the book.
Yeah.
This idea that life isn't a straight line.
No, it's not.
It's not about following a predetermined path.
It's more like a series of moments.
Okay.
Each one an opportunity to choose,
Exact.
to create meaning.
So it's about being present
Being in the here and now.
rather than dwelling on the past or worrying about the future.
That's right.
It's liberating,
It is.
but it can also be scary, right?
It can be, because it requires letting go of control,
Letting go of that need to control everything.
embracing uncertainty,
Yeah.
living in the moment.
But what about our goals, our dreams?
Ah, good question. Does embracing the present mean we just abandon those?
Yeah.
Well, that's where the book's distinction between a linear and an energial approach comes in.
Okay. What's that?
It's not about giving up on your dreams.
But about changing our relationship to them.
Exactly. So instead of viewing them as like fixed points in the future.
You have to achieve them no matter what.
Right.
It's more about seeing them as guiding stars.
Guiding stars.
Sources of inspiration.
Something that keeps you moving forward.
So it's about enjoying the journey,
The journey.
the process, the daily effort.
Rather than attaching all your happiness to
Exactly.
achieving that ultimate goal.
Because the fulfillment comes from the journey itself.
It does.
Right.
It
From the growth, from the learning.
It's like enjoying the dance, even if you stumble or take a wrong step.
It's about finding the joy in the effort, in the struggle.
In the imperfections.
Because that's what makes life real.
That's right.
That's what makes it meaningful.
But I'm sure some of you are thinking, okay, that's great, but what about when things get really tough?
Right.
How do I deal with those inevitable challenges, those setbacks? How do I stay positive when things are falling apart?
That's a great question.
It is.
And it leads us to this profound concept from the book.
Yeah.
The idea of giving meaning to seemingly meaningless life.
Powerful, isn't it?
It is. It is.
It's about recognizing that even in the face of adversity,
Yeah.
we have the power to choose our response,
To find meaning even when things are tough.
even in the most difficult circumstances.
So it's not about denying the pain or pretending everything is okay.
No, it's about acknowledging the struggle,
learning from it,
growing from it,
finding a way to move forward,
even when you feel stuck.
recognizing that even in the darkest of moments,
Yeah,
there's always that glimmer of hope,
there is.
a chance to choose courage over despair.
That's right.
There's another idea in the book that I found really interesting,
Okay.
and honestly a bit challenging at first.
Yeah.
The idea that praise can actually be detrimental.
To our growth.
Yeah, to our growth, to our well-being.
It seems counterintuitive,
It does. It does.
but it's about the distinction between praise and encouragement.
Okay, tell me more.
Praise often comes from a place of judgment,
Uh-huh.
where one person is seen as superior to the other.
Okay.
It creates this vertical relationship
Above and below.
above and below. Yeah.
Like, you're so good at this.
Right.
It implies a hierarchy.
It does.
And we talked about how those power dynamics can be problematic.
They can be.
And when we receive praise, it creates a dependence on external validation.
Yeah.
We start to fear failure.
Huh.
We're afraid to take risks.
Because we don't want to disappoint
Yeah.
those who are praising us.
So it becomes all about meeting those external expectations.
Right.
Instead of following our own intuition.
Our own compass.
Our own compass, yeah.
And the book suggests that encouragement
Yeah.
is different.
It's about fostering a sense of equality.
Equality. Yeah.
Intrinsic motivation.
So instead of saying you're good, it's like saying thank you for your help.
Yeah, yeah.
I appreciate your effort.
Without judgment.
Without judging.
Without conditions.
Yeah.
So shifting from you're good to you're contributing.
You're contributing, yeah.
Which acknowledges the value of each individual.
Creating that culture of respect,
Support.
collaboration.
Where everyone feels empowered to share their gifts.
And that emphasis on equality and collaboration,
Mm-hmm.
it ties into another concept from the book,
Right.
the harmony of life.
Now, when I hear harmony of life, I think like perfect balance.
Yeah, me too.
Like everything in your life has to be perfectly balanced.
Which is impossible. It is impossible. Life is messy.
It is.
Life is unpredictable.
Yeah.
Striving for that perfect balance is just going to make you crazy.
Feel stressed out. Yeah.
Exactly. But what the book's really saying is this. Our lives aren't compartmentalized.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. Your work, your relationships, your health, everything.
It all flows into each other.
It does.
So it's not about this perfect equilibrium.
No.
It's about finding a rhythm
A rhythm, yeah,
that works for you,
that allows you to nurture all those different aspects of yourself.
even when things are chaotic.
Even when things are chaotic, that's right.
And that harmony
Yeah.
is going to look different for everyone.
It will.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
No.
It's about finding what works for you.
What brings you joy, what feels right.
And the book gives examples of how that lack of harmony shows up.
It does.
Like the workaholic who's neglecting their family, their health,
Right.
or the person who's fixated on one small flaw.
Yeah. And they let it overshadow everything else.
Right, exactly.
So it's good to step back sometimes. Look
Yeah.
at the bigger picture.
See if your choices are really serving you
Are they creating more imbalance?
or taking you away from a fulfilling life.
So think about it. Where do you feel out of balance in your own life?
What adjustments can you make?
What can you do to create more harmony
It's about creating a life that feels good, a life that feels aligned.
with who you truly are?
You know, we've been talking about all these Adlerian principles from the courage to be disliked,
Yeah.
and it's been a lot to take in.
It adds
So many insightful ideas.
so many.
But if you had to sum it all up,
Okay.
what's the one key takeaway you want listeners to walk away with?
You have the power to choose happiness right now.
Wow, that's a big statement.
It is.
But what does that even mean?
All right.
Practically speaking,
Yeah.
how can we choose happiness when like life throws us curveballs?
It all comes back to what we've been talking about, that feeling of contribution. It's not about waiting for things to change
Yeah.
or for other people to make you happy.
No.
It's about recognizing that happiness is an inside job.
Okay.
It's about aligning your actions with your values
Yeah.
and finding ways to make a positive impact on the world around you.
So it's not about like
Right.
achieving some huge goal or
Yeah.
becoming a millionaire.
It's not about external things like that.
It's about finding meaning in the everyday moments of your life.
Right here, right now.
It's the little things.
The little
So small acts of kindness.
Yes, exactly. Like going out of your way to help someone
Yeah.
or just offering a listening ear,
Being there for somebody.
being present,
Showing up.
showing up
Contributing your gifts to the world.
in whatever way feels right for you.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's those little ripples that
from
spread out and create a more compassionate world.
one small act at a time.
And you don't have to do like these grand gestures,
Yeah.
to experience that.
It can be simple things.
Simple things.
Helping a neighbor, volunteering, just being there for a friend.
It's those everyday actions
That really make a difference.
And as you do those things,
As you experience making a difference,
you start to cultivate gratitude,
purpose
Yeah.
that no external reward can ever give you.
True happiness comes from who you are,
Yeah.
how you connect with others.
How you contribute.
But let's be real, this journey's not always easy.
No, it's not.
There will be tough times,
There will.
setbacks, self-doubt.
That's part of life.
That's when courage comes in.
Courage, yeah.
That courage to be disliked, the courage to step outside your comfort zone.
To keep moving forward, even when it's hard.
And we're not alone on this journey.
We're not.
We all stumble. We all have challenges.
And that's okay.
We have the support of our communities,
Our loved ones.
the people around us,
Even strangers sometimes.
and every step you take, even the missteps,
even the missteps.
is a learning opportunity.
It is.
It's a chance to grow.
To become more aligned with who you truly are.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the courage to be disliked,
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember
Is
that these ideas, they're not just meant to be understood. They're
Yeah.
meant to be lived
embodied, put into practice
in the real world.
in your daily life.
So ask yourself, what would it look like to live with more courage?
To embrace the freedom of being disliked.
To focus on contributing.
To see others as comrades, not rivals.
To find joy in the journey.
Even when it's hard.
The answers to those questions are going to be different for everybody.
They will be.
But I encourage you to explore them.
Experiment, see what works for you.
Because the world needs your unique gifts.
Your contributions, your authentic self.
And who knows, you might discover a happiness
Of fulfillment.
you never thought possible.
So go out there, deep divers.
Embrace the courage to be happy.